Hi, it's Steph. Today's guest is the lovely Tina Lifford, playwright, author, actor, speaker, founder. She's the author of The Little Book of Big Lies, which Forbes included in the 21 books that will make 2021 your best year yet. She is a longtime actor and plays the powerful character Aunt Vi on the drama television series Queen Sugar, which airs on the Oprah Winfrey Network, or OWN. If you're unfamiliar with Queen Sugar, it's beautiful filmmaking and is based on the novel of the same name, which was written by American writer Natalie Bazile. Tina Lifford is also the founder of the Inner Fitness Project, where she focuses on helping others find inner fitness and making that work as essential as physical fitness. She is filled with light, depth, warmth, and humor. As the Another Door Opens name implies, this podcast is about opening our hearts and minds to the people, ideas, and world around us so that we can all live our lives with a little more ease and grace. During each episode you listen to, I encourage you to move if you can, in any way you can. Take a walk, stand up, sit down, stretch, extend your arms, wiggle your toes, practice your smile, or mindfully move your breath. These are all forms of opening. This is the Another Door Opens podcast, and I'm your host, Stephanie Himango. Here is Tina Lifford. I just want to say thank you so much, Tina Lifford, for talking with me today. It is a joy and a privilege to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here and in the conversation, Stephanie.
I first became aware of you right around the holidays when I was watching an interview with Tiffany Cross that you did. And I was captivated by your grace and your wisdom. And I immediately went online to learn more about you. And I discovered your book, The Little Book of Big Lies, and your work around inner fitness and your beautiful role on Queen Sugar as Aunt Vi. And I would love to touch on all of those today. But I wanted to start with a certain question because I saw a post on your Instagram this morning saying, the beauty of adopting a new kind of thinking is that it opens the door to new possibilities. And as a result, hope abounds. So I wanted to begin by just asking you, what do the words Another Door Opens mean to you, if anything?
Yeah, Another Door Opens. It is an extension of the consciousness behind the idea that all things work together for good, that life is the ability to move forward if we can just see it that way, to dare to allow life to come into our world and feed us no matter what the circumstances are.
That for me sounds like trust. Perceiving that all things work together for our good sounds like trust. Allowing feels like an act of trust, and daring feels like an act of trust.
I think that trust is a great word. And for me, because I do trust to that level, it actually has become my way of life. So I have practiced trusting for such a long time that belief is installed, and that belief sort of governs things for me.
You know, I listened to your book, The Little Book of Big Lies, on Audible twice. And I started by taking you on a walk with me around the neighborhood. And when I came home, I said immediately to my boyfriend, Eric, I said, I just started this book and it's already making a difference in my life. And I mean that sincerely. I want to ask, I think there's always a story behind writing something down. Why did you sit down to write this book?
That's a great question. And it's a layered question because I believe that the universe is intelligent, and that in the same way that it has ordered all of the balance that is the ecosystem that we live in, that we are as much a part of that consideration of that super intelligence as the bees and the seasons and so on and so forth. I believe that we are here for life, for the evolution of life. And that if we can help ourselves to be more available to that idea, then we will feel inside of ourselves callings, things, nudgings, yearnings that really do go beyond our understanding of why it is we have them. So the Little Book of Big Lies, I've always been engaged in my own internal conversation about life and how do we live it well, and well being a double entendre, and wanting to share with other people my level of engagement with that curiosity. Just one day, there was something inside that was pushing me to try and capture on paper all that was in my mind and heart. And I can't tell you that it was like I'm going to write a book. It was more like you have to sit down and you have to make yourself available for this thing that won't leave you alone.
I love that.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Stephanie, it was the hardest thing that I have ever done because I did not consider myself a writer. And I started the Little Book of Big Lies at least 50 times. And when I say I started, I'm talking wrote at least half of the book at least 50 times, only to discover at the middle every single time. And I'll just use the language that I would say out loud. This is a piece of shit. You know, because it wasn't saying anything different than all the stuff that I had heard for such a long time. And my frustration with the stuff that I had heard for such a long time was that, yes, those ideas engage and even uplift, but how do I do this for myself on a consistent basis?
Yes.
And that was missing. And so that's the book I wanted to write. And it took me forever to get there because in the process, I had to not just learn how to write, but I had to unlearn all of the other sort of ego constructions, you know, so that I wasn't trying to pontificate or, you know, teach somebody anything, but that I really could approach these words and these concepts in such a transparent way that if in fact I was hitting on truths that had transformed my experience of life, then they would have a resonance that would extend to others. Getting to that level of honesty and introspection and transparency was hard.
You absolutely did it. I mean, I think one of the things that was most engaging for me as I began listening to your book was that it started out with transparency, personal stories. And you talked about getting to truths. And one of the truths that came through for me in listening to your book was the word lies. I think that word is so powerful because of its hard edges. And I realized in learning the word lies through your book and in that context that I've spent a lot of time negotiating with them, with lies. And I think we all have. And so my question is, believing lies causes a lot of pain. How does unresolved pain impact us?
The best way I can answer that is actually, I just had a coaching session with a client, and I don't do a lot of coaching anymore and do more of the workouts, but I did a coaching session with someone who was really stuck, and she had blown up in a situation, in a space where she felt safe, seen, and heard, and had really never felt safe, seen, and heard before. And in talking to her, and this was literally just yesterday, in talking to her, what we discovered in the coaching session was that everything in her childhood had really prepared her to react the way she did. She had been controlled a lot as a child. Her rights to her voice and her freedom in her body had been taken from her in so many ways. I don't think she had sexual abuse, but there was just this oppression that she had felt most of her life. And when she came into the Inner Fitness Project, she had started to flower and take her power back from that past. And when she got into the circle, and it was a space where people were just sharing, it was beautiful for her. And then someone made a request of her, and she did not feel heard in her answer to that request. And in not feeling heard, it triggered all of her past. Mm-hmm. This woman is in her 40s. Here she is in a situation that is what she has been hoping for and looking for. Friends, connection, synergy, growth, all of it. And a question, or the way in which one of the people responded to her, triggered all of that other stuff. And that's happening to all of us all the time until we are aware of it and we begin to unravel the lie that is so deeply embedded that we don't even see it. Mm-hmm. And if you can't see it, you can't call it a lie. And so part of the work that we do at the Inner Fitness Project is, I call it taking the journey back to yourself, self with a capital S. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many unseen, habitual, conditioned, status quo responses that we are operating from. And in order for us to truly claim freedom to ourselves, for ourselves, we must begin to see the lies that are operating at that unseen level. Because when you see them, you can actually change them.
And when you're trying to help somebody see those lies as lies, what kinds of questions do you ask? How do you sort of clear away all of the clouds to help find that for people?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I have two answers that I think are really sort of easy to spot. Number one is your peace disturbed? Mm-hmm. Because our peace, our upset, lets us know that there is something inside, some place inside of us that has feeling, and that feeling is likely connected to something unresolved. We only react and get upset because of a relationship to the past in some way.
Wow, that's so true.
Yeah. And so I'm always encouraging that we pay attention to our upsets, that they are not to be avoided, not to run from them, but to use them as a map and guidance towards a deeper level of healing. And then the other way that you can out lies or identify lies is just anything, any experience or event that leaves us feeling worthless, not good enough, afraid of discovering or being ourselves, or disconnected from a sense of ourselves as having innate value. Whatever is underneath that is a lie. And I will just say that a lie is simply a false impression. So it means that that event, that person, that experience that we had, yes, that happened. and the way we looked at it, the way that experience disconnected us from our own sense of our worth and value. That's the false impression that is the lie that we must now make right.
And then once somebody has become aware of these lies, whether they've been telling themselves and believing these lies for 10 years or 60 years, what can a person do once aware to reinforce their resolve in those moments when upset or disturbed peace do happen and they just want to revert to believing the lie?
Knowledge and awareness are power. The fact that one begins to see the lies is a really powerful place because you can't change it till you see it. So acknowledging that this thing happened, whatever it is, acknowledging how it made you feel, acknowledging the ways in which it has disrupts your life, it disturbs your peace, acknowledging all of it allows you to make new choices. And when you acknowledge it and call it, name it the lie that it is, now you are free to begin to tell yourself a greater truth. And the reasons that we carry lies for such a long time is that they become habits. They become mental and emotional habits. One of the most important discoveries out of neuroscience is the information, the understanding that the brain can change at any point. That plasticity thing means that the brain can change how it does a thing, how it fires, what it pays attention to, weaken the old neural pathways and create new neural pathways. And so when you see a lie, you can apply this little tool that I actually learned in a spiritual psychology program. You can begin to tell yourself, so up until now, this is how it has been in my life. This is how I have reacted. This is how I have interpreted. These are the assumptions that I have had. But from this point forward, all of that can change for the better. Oh. And literally, yeah. Yes.
Up until now, from this point forward.
That's exactly right.
Do you have t-shirts that you've coined with that?
Yes. It's powerful, right?
It is.
It's so powerful. Literally every single time I have said it in, our workshops or whatever it is that we're doing in the book. Every single time I share that, which I heard for the first time years ago in that spiritual psychology program, but I've not heard anyone talk about it. And it's such a powerful concept. You can literally feel the energy and the life and the possibility that is baked into the simple idea that this is how it has been up until now. But from this point forward, it can change for the better. And you don't even have to know, Stephanie, how it's going to change or exactly what the change is. But it can change for the better. Actually is one of the important steps when you asked me previously, so what are things that people can do when they are confronted with the lie, when they see the lie? So you acknowledge it, and then you begin to interrupt its crusty, automatic presence in your life. And you interrupt it by literally catching yourself and seeing the habit in all of its intricacy. And you begin to imagine what you want instead, and you make room for that possibility.
Making room for the possibility is so powerful. And I think no matter what it is, whatever the lie is, I can say I had one of those moments recently. And the lie I was telling myself was, when I get upset, I reach for sugar. I can't not reach for sugar. I reach for sugar. It comforts me, and it's completely counterproductive to what I really want, which is to live a healthier lifestyle with better control around food. And up until that moment, I did that until one day I didn't. I made it through that critical moment or critical window by interrupting it with, first of all, like you said, awareness. And I didn't have sugar for the first time in maybe ever, and it was available to me and I didn't choose it. And so I think once we can make it through one of those moments where we've been able to interrupt it, we have a newfound confidence that something different can be.
That's right. That's really exciting, because what you have just shared is really sort of the process for deconstructing an old habit, particularly an emotional habit.
Mm-hmm.
I like to share the analogy of a tantrum throwing child.
Mm-hmm.
A tantrum throwing child gets its way because that child has learned that if he or she just amps up the tantrum, then the parent is going to capitulate, because the parent doesn't want to be embarrassed if it's in a public space, or the parent just wants the discomfort of the moment to be over. And so that child has learned to just keep the pressure on with the tantrum, and it will get its way. Well, inside of us, the tantrum throwing child is the habit of us capitulating and doing what we don't want for our lives, but we haven't been able to tolerate the discomfort necessary for change.
Oh, that's so good. Haven't been able to tolerate the discomfort, because we have to remember that discomfort's temporary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The trick, and it's so obvious, and yet it foils us so often. The trick is to be able to just weather the discomfort.
That's the trick.
No matter how pressing it becomes, no matter how much it begins to talk to us, and we're not going to die.
Right.
And once we know that we're not going to die, we can literally be in the ring with it, and we don't even have to fight it. That's the good news. We don't have to fight it. We don't have to, have our dukes up. In fact, we actually have to drop our dukes, and we have to breathe and let the moment pass. And because that can be really difficult, one of the things that I encourage is that as you are going through the test of being with the discomfort, talk to yourself. Talk to yourself. Say, this is really hard. This hurts really bad. I just want this to end. Stay present with what you are feeling, but don't run from this opportunity to take a really big chunk out of the power that tantrum throwing child inside of you has had without question for so many years.
And is this the type of thing that people who participate in your inner fitness projects can learn about and go deeper with?
Absolutely. Here's what we're doing at the Inner Fitness Project. The Inner Fitness Project, which is the name of the entity. But the project is, we take the stance that inner fitness is as important as physical fitness. And literally, inner fitness should be as understandable, accessible, and actionable in our lives as physical fitness, and as ubiquitous. Everyone knows the importance of physical fitness. You know, the entire medical industry today knows the importance of physical fitness to every area of medicine, physical exercise, and the impact of that on wellness. And yet there is not one physical fitness exercise that can resolve your unresolved emotional issues. It can help you cope with them. It can help you have some place to channel your energy. But to resolve unresolved issues takes a different kind of fitness, a different kind of exercise, a different kind of practice. And so the Inner Fitness Project is literally using the physical fitness model of 1 hour increments. But instead of it being a floor mat or a yoga mat, we are using your journal and your journey, and incrementally 1 hour at a time with transformational concepts and aha moments and exercises that help you in the moment process and see. We are making inner fitness as ubiquitous, accessible, understandable, and actionable in our lives as physical fitness.
I have to believe that you bring all of that because it shows to your role as Aunt Vi in Queen Sugar. I have to ask, how do you describe the show Queen Sugar and also your role as Aunt Vi to people who haven't yet seen it?
Great question. So Queen Sugar is the journey of 3 estranged siblings coming together and learning how to work and reach for something bigger than the limitations that they find themselves in. It's really about family and community and the things we have to fight internally and externally in order to have that love and to grow that love and to move beyond where we have been up until now. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a viewer watching Queen Sugar, I see this extremely talented cast, yourself included, of course. I see the sage writing, the relevant content, the beautiful cinematography, the deep relationships. What does it mean to you to be part of this particular creative expression at this time in history?
That is such a fantastic question. and here's why, Stephanie, because I can point to the places in my journals, where literally I have written, how can I be a sought after working actress in an ensemble show where everyone shines and I bring such undeniable value that my contribution is indeed undeniable. I have asked for that.
And you are there. Really? So you were very intentional about wanting something that was like this.
Absolutely. I would not have known the form, but I'm telling you that Ensemble Show. And why Ensemble Show? Years ago, when I was first yearning to be an actress and I did not know how to get from the seat I was sitting in at the theater onto the big screen, I saw this movie where the ensemble acting was so exquisite. And when the movie was over, I just sat in my seat. I had gone to this matinee by myself and I sat in my seat and I wept. And, I'm not a crier. So I was like, what is going on here? And what was going on is that everything that I wanted, I had just seen. Relevant content, ensemble, fantastic writing, just on and on. And so I went home that night and in tears because I did not know how to release all of the yearning and pain that I was feeling for what I wanted. And that's the very first time that I literally happened upon the power of using our journals to actually process our lives. The only thing I had that night that gave me any emotional relief was that I just started writing, how can I be a respected, sought after working actress? How can I be a respected, sought after working actress? How can I? And I wrote that one question for 6 full pages.
Oh my gosh. What movie did you watch?
It was The Big Chill.
Oh.
And then, Stephanie, check this out. I did that. That's at the beginning of my career when I don't even know if I had a SAG card at that point. 7 to 10 years later, and I should probably look it up, but 7 to 10 years later, I am temping someplace as a temp secretary. Mm-hmm. And my agent calls me. Of course, I had been auditioning and so on and so forth. My agent calls me and asks me if I'm sitting down, just like they do in the movies. Uh-huh. And I chuckle and say, I'm not, but I can. And I sit down and he tells me that Lawrence Kasdan wants to hire me to star in his upcoming movie, Grand Canyon. Lawrence Kasdan was the writer of The Big Chill. Lawrence Kasdan's work, was always just a lot of ensemble work. And his work is always relevant. And so Grand Canyon was really dealing with the crisis between the haves and the have-nots, black and white, America in California. Mm-hmm. And so those moments of yearning actually ignited processes that I use to this day and have learned as the entire world is learning more about things like manifestation, mm-hmm. things like transformation. These are real concepts with real practices and processes and steps. But I had happened on to them. And every single thing that my soul taught me, I began to realize I didn't have to read it in a book. I would then lean into it, even if I didn't read it in the book, if it felt right. And then lo and behold, so much of what I had started to lean into is now being written about in different ways through science and personal development and so on and so forth. So there are very real concepts. There are very real practices that we can all learn and begin to lean into. I say that people oftentimes, even when I was a child, they referred to me as an old soul. Mm-hmm. And I came here a very contemplative kid. Mm-hmm. My parents at one point questioned whether or not I was a happy kid because they literally said to me more than multiple times, "Are you happy?" And finally one day I said, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking. And so what I say today, what I know with every cell in my body, we all are living the same life, L-I-F-E. The details are different. The experiences and the events show up differently, but underneath, we are all living the life of discovering that we are more than just the image that we see in the mirror. And discovering it seems to be just the nature of being human, that we bump into and ingest and digest lies. And no matter what your lie is, the journey back to yourself is to see the lie, out the lie, and transform the lie with truth. And so when people say things to me like, oh my God, you're so wise, or whatever, I'm very clear. What I am is practiced. What I am is a person who, for whatever the reason, I began to believe the things that I was reading and the intuition that lived inside of me. I began to believe it, and believe it so deeply that it impacted and then transformed my thinking. And that I call practiced. And being practiced, just like going back to the physical fitness analogy or model, that's not something that ends. Mm-hmm. If in fact we want to be strong and healthy until I take my last breath, if that's what I want, then I will be in a level of practice from now until I die. Because we are so much more than the image in the mirror. There is a part of us that truly is infinite. It is connected to the very dust and elements that have created life throughout time. I say that we have 3 cells inside of us, and I won't go into that here. But when we begin to understand ourselves and see the surviving self, the thriving self, and the infinite self living inside of us, and we're moving throughout these cells all day, every day, when we pay enough attention that we can see that in operation, we absolutely have given ourselves the roadmap for transforming our lives. Because now all we have to do is take what we are seeing and begin to work with it in more conscious and informed ways.
So beautiful, Tina. Just so profound, and so many really tangible pieces of advice that people can act on. Before I let you go, I want to ask you 2 things. The final thing I'm going to ask you is where people can find you online. But the one question I have before we get to that, is there an example of a door closing in your life that in retrospect, you are glad closed?
My honest answer to that is yes. I'll just say yes. And the reason I'm struggling is that I just really know that every door is for our good, like we said at the very beginning of your show. And so when I started learning, like that boyfriend that I was just pining over, oh my God, I was just pining. In fact, I was chuckling the other day, that I was in my kitchen. This is maybe 10 years ago. I was in my kitchen and going through some pattern around relationship. And I literally doubled over and I said, oh my God, this hurts so bad. And then right after I said that, I started laughing and I looked up to the heavens and I said, but I get it. I see it. I see it for the first time, right? And just the other day, I thought about that same guy and I burst out laughing because, oh my God, am I so happy that that man is not in my life.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I say an emphatic yes, that every single thing that I thought I just had to have, right? It just would be the founding of everything. And then it wasn't, only to make room for something so much better. And it left me with this very succinct statement. If it's not there, it's not needed.
Tina, I know everybody is going to want more of you. And so can you, just before we say goodbye, let us know where we can find you online, where we can find your book, find your inner fitness work, and also where we can see Queen Sugar.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Queen Sugar, that is on OWN. You'll have to check your cable guide to see where, but it also is on Hulu. So you can catch up on Queen Sugar if you're new to Queen Sugar by going to Hulu. And of course, you can always go to Amazon and buy the season discs. It's a really good show.
It's a really good show. We just binged season 1 on Amazon because I don't have that channel. I don't have the Oprah Winfrey Network, but I did go to Amazon and we binged season 1. We're into season 2 and we're trying to catch up before we get to real time.
Yeah. Season 4 is a doozy is what I will tell you. And they all are good. It's amazing that the show just gets better and better and better. In terms of Tina Lifford, in terms of inner fitness, you can follow me across all social media platforms with just @Tina Lifford, one word. And the work that I do for the Inner Fitness Project, we are www.theinnerfitnessproject.com, but TinaLifford.com will also take you to the same site. And I encourage you to check us out. We are a growing, burgeoning network. And the vision is a vision that is meant to literally impact the world and have us all have ways to step into our inner strength and resilience, the way in which we step into and exercise our physical fitness.
Tina Lifford, thank you for your grace and your power and your light. Much love to you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. This was fun.
Tina Lifford, thank you. Everyone, make sure you check out Tina's book, The Little Book of Big Lies, her Inner Fitness Project, and do not miss Queen Sugar on OWN or Hulu or Amazon. This show is beautiful, relevant, and supremely moving. You will feel enriched by what every character brings to the screen and to the ensemble story. I'll be posting a few pictures related to this episode on my social media pages, like always. So follow on Instagram and Twitter @Steph Himango and @PodcastADO. If you want to, take a second to share this episode with someone and rate and review it on Apple. To my Patreon supporters, thank you again for believing in the power of story and supporting the show. If you're interested in becoming a patron too, you can go to patreon.com/anotherdooropens to find out some of the options there, starting at $1 a month. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Those Another Door Opens drum beats were made by the amazing Eric Brown. And that is this week's episode of the Another Door Opens podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Think about how you can practice opening in your life today, and I'll do the same. I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.